Welcome to The Art of Likeability, ranked one of the top podcasts in the world. In this podcast, you'll discover how to leverage likability to build stronger relationships, lead more efficiently, close more sales, and keep customers happy while increasing success in your professional and personal life. Let's jump in with your host, Arel Moody.
What's going on, Art of Likeability family? Arel Moody here, your host of the Art of Likeability podcast, where we teach you the most important strategies you've ever learned in your entire life. How can I say that? Because I chose to say it. I think that's what we have the right to do. We have freedom of speech, so I can say whatever I want as long as I'm not impinging on anyone's rights. So I believe this content is the best in the world. I'm also biased because obviously I'm the host of the Art of Likeability podcast, and I would not want to put out content that I didn't think was the best in the world. And in our pursuit of providing the best in the world content, we scour the universe. Literally not just this planet. We go to other planets as well. We're still looking for other forms of life, but my light speed spacecraft has not been built yet. So I've been confined to the best minds on the planet Earth, and I have found an incredible person to share with you a very interesting perspective on partying. Now, a lot of times when we think about partying, as we become adults, we might just think of, oh, party's very simple. You get a bunch of adults together, you get some booze, you drink, you play a little bit of music, and there you go. Party done. You know, like it's set up. But what I love about our guest today, Jake White, he's a speaker and author and founder of Party.0, which is a movement specifically for college students who throw college house parties for their campus. Now, the good news is if you're not a college student, these strategies are still 100% applicable to your life. So let's say, for example, you're an adult and you're like, wow, I want to throw a party, but I don't want to just, not have alcohol. No one's going to enjoy it. Maybe you might find a really cool way to come up with some ideas that will absolutely change the way you interact with your friends and your family. Jake's worked with top schools like Mississippi State University, Indiana University, has been featured in national news outlets like USA Today. And I got introduced to Jake when he was part of a speaker coaching program that I was running, and I just loved his energy and what he was putting together and his absolutely genuinely authentic way of being dedicated to his cause. So I'm excited to welcome him today to the Art of Likeability podcast. Jake White, what's going on, brother?
Hey, Arel, man. I'm excited to get into it and chat with you a little bit about partying.
Yeah, man. So, when people think about partying, it's almost synonymous with drinking or having a drinking game or drinking my hand or something like that. But you've kind of taken a different approach to the whole partying movement. So I'd love for you to just give us a little bit of background on, where did this come from? Why did you start dedicating yourself to it? What's the background story here?
Yeah. So I realized that, growing up that there was a culture that was just focused on drinking, and it never was a problem in my life until I got to college. So in high school, I could have friends, have fun, and feel like I fit in with everyone without drinking or getting high. And when I went to school at a university in Oshkosh, it was completely different. And Oshkosh is in Wisconsin, by the way. So it was completely different. The culture is, hey, if you don't drink beer, if you don't get high, if you don't take shots, like you have no business being in college or being in Wisconsin. So I definitely felt outcasted. But the reason why I felt so strongly not to use any drugs or drink alcohol is because I had watched my uncle struggle with addiction throughout my life. I'd seen him in hospitals. I'd seen him in jail. I watched one of them eventually die because of their relationship with alcohol and drugs. So for me, the decision was easy. I had seen the negative aspects of those things, and I'd never seen the positives. So I decided that I was not going to do that. And then I spent about 2 years being insecure with myself because I'd made a different decision until I read a statistic. And this statistic really surprised me. It said that 30% of college students don't drink alcohol. And I was thinking, what? Like, there's no way that is true, because I would have met them.
What was the percentage again?
It was around 30%.
30%. So
And
3
that
out
was
of 10. Yeah.
yeah, that was a national statistic between students the ages of 18 to 24. So college age students. And, but on the weekends, I was seeing all these people going to house parties, bars, and that was the only option. So I was like, where are these 30% hiding? And what I realized was that they were just like me, and they didn't want to be open about their decision because you're ridiculed for it. You're labeled as boring or arrogant if you don't do what the popular culture does. So that's where the idea came from, was for me basically complaining about how, hey, the keg is the only excuse to get together. Unless I create something different, it's never actually going to change. So I had the idea for a sober house party, and to my surprise, thing just blew up. Hundreds of students flooding to these house parties, getting big name sponsors like Red Bull and Papa John's to help us out. And then students from across the country asking like, Jake, this is so cool. How did you do this? So now, I get to be a speaker. I get to go on campus and share the party system and platform with students so they can throw massive sober parties for their own campus.
So now when you did that party, was like did the flyer say sober party? Or like when you said you wanted to throw it, how did you actually position it?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question, because the reason why we are successful is because we don't market like a normal event you'd see on a college campus. The reason why house parties are so successful is because they're underground, they're grassroots, and people get invited by a friend. So we do the same thing. We never put out any flyers. In fact, if you put out a flyer, your party is going to be terrible, especially if it's a sober party. So what we learned is we developed a 25-second pitch, and it works 90% of the time in getting students' phone numbers. So we will personally invite them to our parties, and we will ask for their phone numbers. And that's how people get invited. And the key for this really is to make people feel good. If you see an event on a poster, there's no personal connection. There's no one that at the party. You're just taking a chance on whether it's going to be good or not. But if you get invited by someone, they've already basically said, hey, I like you, I want to party with you, you're invited. And that feels good. So when they come to the party, they're going to feel good, and they might not need alcohol as like a pregame or a confidence booster because they already have a comfort zone or a friend there.
Got it. So now are you like literally walking up to people and be like, hey, we're throwing a sober house party. Can I have your phone number? Like, is that how it sounded?
Yes. Yeah. With a little more flourishment. So, I mean, I won't like give you the pitch because it's not going to be that useful for your audience, but we leverage 3 things in our 25-second pitch. It's number 1, again, that personal invite. You're walking up, you're face to face, and you're talking to them. The second thing is that we tell them what's going to be at the party. So we emphasize, hey, we're going to have a DJ, we're going to have games, competitions, sponsors, free food. And then we tell them where it's also not going to be there is alcohol, but we immediately flip that into a positive because, again, a lot of people love drinking. So if we just ended it on, hey, we're going to not drink, then they'll say, okay, well, then I'm not going to come. So we basically have to turn that into a positive, showing them, well, here are the benefits of not drinking at our party. And then the third thing is that the bandwagon effect. We'll tell them how many people are on our texting list. So then they think, well, I'd be dumb not to join the list because there's already so many people who have validated this idea. I'm not going to be the only one there. It's going to be a good time. So we just leverage that personal invitation, telling what's going to be there, and then leverage the bandwagon effect as well on how many people are going to show up already.
Got it. So you're literally now, is this like so this is on a college campus when you first did this, is that right?
Yep, this is what works on a college campus.
Right. So now when you were on the college campus, were you literally just like, it's a numbers game, we're just walking up to people and we're chatting, or you're like, we're looking for someone, like, where you're like, how did you know which person, or was it just pure, if you're within 3 feet of me, I'm going to approach you?
Yeah, it's like that. If you're in 3 feet of me, I'm going to approach you. And what I learned is that I'm going to stereotype someone and decide whether they're going to be a good fit or not. If somebody's wearing a, hey, let's get wasted this weekend t-shirt, which it sounds ridiculous, but I mean, a lot of people are wearing t-shirts that don't say exactly that, but something like that. I will still invite them. What I found is that most people, they're wearing these shirts, these Budweiser or different shirts, because they think it's the popular thing to do. Again, they've jumped on the college bandwagon that, hey, you're in school, you get wasted, you talk about drinking, you brag about it, and you go to parties. So if you show them a different option, then a lot of them will jump on that bandwagon. So you just have to show them a different route, and a lot of them will take it. So I did learn that, I had prejudged someone at another school that we were helping start this program, and I didn't invite them. And then I thought, hey, like, I just stole this person's opportunity to come have fun at my party. I've just chosen that I'm not going to include him and value him by, a stereotype because he's this big wrestler dude with the beer shirt on. But when I went over to talk to him, he was so pumped. He was like, you better not be kidding me because this sounds awesome. Like, I'm going to get my whole wrestling team there. And he was like one of the strongest advocates of our program. So I learned from that moment that just never to prejudge people. If you're throwing a party, invite people because you'd want to be invited as well.
Yeah, there's an interesting moment between whenever we make a request of someone and that I don't know how they're going to respond, which actually is almost crippling, almost debilitating in our abilities to just simply ask questions, because we could be running through our head, well, he's got the beard, he's got the shirt, he's going to look at me like I'm crazy, he's going to think I'm silly or stupid or ignorant, and like, I don't want my ego to be hurt, I'm trying to do good work, let me just not ask him. But maybe that's the moment that like changes his whole life, to go, hey, I don't have to drink to have fun. And I think it's so applicable in so many areas. So, I'm curious, when you're putting yourself in the mindset of going up to someone, I think all of us, whether it's inviting someone to a party of this nature or maybe some other area in our life, could you give us some strategies on how you personally deal with that? I'm about to walk up to someone who's probably going to say no to me. It's going to hurt. Right. And I don't want to look like I'm this lunatic. How do you get yourself into the right mind space so that you can make that ask?
Yeah. So I found actually a good trick that works really well for this. And like you said, it's applicable to anybody. I mean, if you're in sales and you're afraid of making that cold call, if you're at the grocery store and you see someone you want to strike up a conversation with, it happens all the time. And you get that feeling in your stomach, like, oh gosh, I could get rejected. What I've found is the biggest helper is to realize that you only have control over your invitation. They already are going to say yes or no based on what kind of day they've been having, whether, I don't know, like whatever outside factors are going on. So all you can do is just put yourself out there, to the universe and see how, like, what happens. I know that sounds cheesy, but right, if you don't ask, the answer will always be no. There's that one always in the back of my head that if I miss this opportunity, they're not going to take it either way. But number two, and I think the most important one, I already touched on it a little bit, is that your job is, all that you can do is to focus on them. Don't focus on yourself looking dumb, the bad feeling you'll have if they say no. Focus on them. They deserve an invitation. They deserve to talk to you and to feel sought after and valued. So when you approach somebody and you're scared, think about how what you're offering could change their life. Focus on them and not yourself. And that's just a trick I learned from speaking, is when you get in front of an audience, that's also scary. But if you focus on them instead of yourself, then you'll do a lot better job value from them. And I think, Aurel, that might have come from you, man, and your training. So I use it for everything.
That's great. Yeah, it's something I definitely teach and share often, because what you're touching upon, I think, is crucial, and it's easy to glaze over it. I want to focus on what you said, because if it's missed, people may not realize, one, the power of it. And what I'm hearing between the lines of what you're saying is, you have something that you genuinely, like in your heart of hearts, almost in your, DNA, believe this is helpful, this is good, this will make this person's life better. Therefore, it's easy for me to want to ask, because my focus is on them and I see the benefit. I tend many times, when we're feeling nervous about making an ask, it's because the thing we're asking about, we're not really fully bought into it. It's easy to, like, if I had the example that I heard given, it's like, if I had the cure for cancer, right? I would be like knocking on every hospital door, like, we've got this cure. You've got people who need this. Like, listen to me for 5 minutes and this is amazing. But if you're like, oh, I got this kind of thing that feels a little scammy to me, you're not gonna have the same, courage or confidence. So you really believe in it, and your focus isn't on you looking silly. Your focus is on this may impact this person's life. And I think that's very important.
Right. And in the worst case scenario, what if you do look silly? Like, who cares? It's not going to impact your life once you leave that situation. But that feeling, that gratification, that help is going to stick with you for a lifetime.
Yeah. And it's interesting. When you made the ask and you would so you get yourself, it's kind of almost like an ask sequence, right? Like you've got your 25-second pitch, you've got your 3 steps to your, the elements of your pitch, the benefits of it, the social, what was the third one? It was the benefits, the social proof, and what was the third one? The bandwagon, right? So it's like you have that and you come in with it.
Yeah.
But you said something which I thought was interesting, because you would tell people like, hey, we got sponsors for our party. And I don't think anyone in the history of my college experience ever said we have sponsors for our house party. So what does that even mean, and how does that even come about?
So it's a hype move, right? Like if you're having a sober house party, people are automatically going to assume, hey, that's like low key, boring. People are going to be playing chess and knitting and doing stuff like that. They're not thinking, oh, this is going to be a rager, there's going to be loud music, fun, awesome people. So by putting in, like, one of our biggest sponsors is Red Bull, meaning that whenever we call Red Bull and tell them we're having a party, they send cases and cases and cases of product for free to our door, because they want to be associated with what we're doing. It's positive and it's a party. It fits their brand perfectly. So that's something that we just like to leverage, because when people think of Red Bull, they think, okay, that's hype, that's extreme, they're like breaking records and doing extreme sports and jumping off helicopters and all this crazy stuff. So then they can associate that with our party. Also, it just means free, like free food and drinks. That is a buy-in. Like, I will be there every single time. So that's something that just helps combat that sober stigma in a way and provide some hype for our events.
Now, when you go to Red Bull and you say, hey, like you send the email out to someone at Red Bull, you say, we're going to have a sober house party. Why are they not going to say, hey, man, just buy some Red Bull? Like, good for you, buy it. Like, how do you convince someone of that stature to send you cases of a drink?
I mean, it all depends on their marketing strategy. So some energy drink companies would say that, but the college market is such a crucial market. Number one, because the baby boomers are right there. Like, we're at the tail end of the baby boomers. Wait, I'm saying baby boomers. I'm thinking millennials. Okay, sorry. Yeah. The millennials. The baby boomers' kids, us millennials. This is the tail end that's in college. So the biggest demographic in history is now leaving college demographic. So they have to catch them within those 4 years when they're developing their buying habits. So I mean, we're giving them a demographic that they're aching to gain loyalty from. So if we can introduce them to 150 to 200 students in one night in a positive, memorable atmosphere that they're going to post pictures on social media with and talk about for the rest of the week, because it broke so many stereotypes of college and drinking culture, like that's a win for marketing, That experiential marketing is what Red Bull is all about. They're always creating events, kiteboarding tournaments, and like they have this event called Schlittentag where you sled down a hill on a sled that you create with your own team. And like there's just free Red Bull everywhere. So, and DJs and music. So they're all about experiential branding. So we fit their model really well. Whereas other people might say, oh, right, yeah, well, we just want to sell more cans of our energy drink. So go buy some.
And are you saying that like in your outreach to Red Bull, are you outlining all of those facts, or are you just assuming those are implicitly implied?
I know that the people that we're in touch with, like we've already had that conversation. They already know what they're getting. So we had to develop that relationship. But now that we have it, we can, if we partner with a school that has a Red Bull representative in the area, 99% of the time they say, yes, we're going to supply you with, products for your parties. We think what you're doing is awesome. We know we're going to get news media coverage. We know that we're going to be in pictures and photos. We know that students are going to be talking about us.
Very cool. Very cool. Now, what kind of sponsors have you worked with?
Mostly we stay consistent with Red Bull and Papa John's, but whenever we have a local community that's a little smaller, we'll go to small mom and pop shops. We'll do local things. We've worked with Subway. We've worked with Insomnia Cookies. We've worked with Chick-fil-A. So anybody who's got kind of a corporate structure to give back to the community, we want to work with them because we have a win-win situation with them, and we can get them in front of new potential customers who are going to be in town for the next 4 years, and also gain them that customer loyalty. So, but yeah, we look, it's not always monetary as well. So like for products, we're talking, Chick-fil-A, Subway, Red Bull, Papa John's, it's easy. They throw in 15 pizzas, they throw in 20 cases, whatever it is. But then for monetary sponsors, we look at community organizations like the Kiwanis Club and Rotary Club, people who want to see young people have positive alternatives to drinking and using drugs. So they're more likely to hand us over a check saying, if you guys need speakers or games, here's a budget to go ahead and do that.
So if you are listening to this podcast right now and you represent an organization or business that you would like to be part of a sober party, I would reach out to Jake. I think it's a very unique brand strategy. It's a very easy idea to get behind. So I would encourage any of our listeners, if this is something that you feel like fits your business's vision or community give back, totally reach out to Jake. I'm kind of speaking for you. I didn't ask you beforehand, but I'm sure you wouldn't mind people reaching out to you and saying like, hey, we'd like to be a part of what you're doing. All right, cool. So now,
absolutely. Reach out, save contact information, and be in touch.
Now, so you're putting these parties together. I think the first thing that people might think about is, so Jake, I get it. You got some sponsors. There's some Red Bull on the table. There's some, cookies, sandwiches, music. But how do you get people to loosen up and have fun? I mean, without that liquid courage, I'm afraid like it's going to be a boring party. How do you combat that with how you put together your sober house parties?
Yeah, that is the toughest situation, but something that I think makes our platform and system very valuable is because we've got it down to a science. So there's basically 3 reasons why people are going to come, have fun, come back to your parties, and it's 3 F words, right? So they'll come for the food, they'll stay for the fun, and they'll come back for the friends. And this is like just consistently. If you cover these things, you're going to have amazing parties. People are going to love them. They're going to talk about them and come back to them. And the good thing about, like, if you are just hosting a party, like everybody wants to go to a party. Not everyone knows how to host them. So if you know how to host them, then, you can network whenever you want to. You can include and strike up a conversation with anyone by inviting them to your event. So whether it's a holiday party, a themed party, a launch party for your business, or just a get together, team building party, whatever it is, just remember, so we're going to go into this, but come for the food, stay for the fun, come back for the friends. And I realize too, adults enjoy alcohol. So if food means alcohol for your business, like, again, that's not what I'm about, but that's just that a lot of people think that way. So first one is, come for the food. Before I get into food, which I think is really obvious, people just love food and they need it every single day, probably 2 to 3 times a day. So if you have it for free, people are there. Is actually getting them to come. So again, emphasizing that you need a personal invitation. You need to ask them because it makes them feel good and like you actually want them there. They're not just a number. So do that, have some food there, and they're going to say yes, more than likely if they don't have other plans. Then you have the fun. Now, this actually takes planning. So if you have to realize that everyone's not a social superstar, right? On this podcast are probably not social superstars. You can't just strike up a conversation with anybody at any time and give them the best night of their life because you are so amazing. So what you have to do is you have to create fun games and competitions and new experiences that are the key way that we do this at my company is we teach students, make everything a competition. There's something about being competitive that, gets people loud and excited, and they loosen up and they talk trash to one another, even though they're just newly friends. Like, they're so comfortable with one another because they're competing for this thing, and people get crazy and goofy. So that's kind of our substitute for alcohol, is we have some sort of competition going on throughout the night that gets people excited and out of their comfort zone. And if you think about it, like that's what people use alcohol. They're using it to loosen up at that party because that's what they've learned how to do. The last thing is friends. So how we pick games and competitions as well. Sometimes we might say, hey, everyone put your name in a hat because we're going to draw partners, so that you automatically are going to make one new friend that night. And this is key. If you can help someone make one new friend, they're going to call that night a success. Especially after school, after college. I'm assuming a lot of this audience, not everybody's in college. In college, friends, but outside of college, you actually have to try and make an effort. So if your party makes connections between people, they're always going to come back and they're going to view you as the person to get connected with. And you're going to have that role in their life, which is a good role to have. So making those connections through partner games, partner competitions, always listening and thinking, okay, I just met someone who's a nurse. And, oh yeah, Andrew, he's in the medical field too. I might just say, hey, Andrew, have you met this person yet? And then I'll go up between them and say, and let's say her name was Erin and she needs to meet Andrew, they're both in the medical field. I'll say, Erin, Andrew is in the medical field. Andrew, can you tell me again what you do? And they'll literally look at each other and I'll walk away. Like, I've connected them. They're making a new friend. I know that they're going to have a good time at that party because they've got connected with someone new and they can hit it off. So the food, which is self-explanatory, the fun, and having games, things for people to do, not have time to think that they're bored, or, give them chances to talk to new people. And then friends, making those connections with partners, conversations, connecting people. That's what makes it good, even without any alcohol or drugs.
Now, when you talk about the competitions, I love that because I think, like, just innately, like, you could just walk up to someone on the street and be like, bet you can't beat me in a race, and start running. And I bet you, 4 to 5 out of 10 people might race you. There's something about that competitive drive that's just fun, as long as it's lighthearted. If it's like, I bet you I could punch you in the face harder than you can punch me in the, like, that's not a good, competition. So don't use that one. That's a horrible choice. But getting people competitive, just consistently, is a fun thing. I mean, if you look at like most board games, like, it's literally just generating competitiveness, whether it's drawing, whether it's charades. It's, can my team be better than your team in this specified act? In your experience, what are some of the most, like, I'm sure you have tons that you teach, but like, what are one or two of your like most favorite competitive games that usually are low barriers to entry that anybody could start using if they wanted to host a party that would be like a guaranteed hit?
Mm-hmm. I found the most popular one at our parties, and this is just because it's mostly freshmen and sophomores, people who are new to college, is they've heard about beer pong. It's a partner game. So, I mean, we play beer pong without beer. It's actually, we have a version called Skill Pong. It's one of our sponsors, who basically, it's a clean version of beer pong. You don't need any liquid. So we set up tournaments almost every single party, and people get so hyped up about it, and they will cheer each other on. They will yell. They will talk trash. And again, it's an easy game to learn. It's not very physical. So anybody can do it, and it's an easy way to talk to people while you play as well. So it's not like you're playing a game of football and you don't talk because you're out of breath the whole time. You are casually playing a game with people and getting excited. So we call it Skill Pong. Like that is definitely a great one to use. And I mean, the sets are online too at skillpong.com. Plug for one of our sponsors, right?
Is it
Like
skill? Like
it's
I
a
have a skill?
skill. Yes, exactly. Skill Pong.
Got it. Okay, cool. We'll put that in the
And it's
into the
basically
show
like a
notes for anyone who's listening and you're like, wait, what is it? We'll put it in the show notes so you can check out what skill pong's about.
right.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
But
like
I definitely recommend that one.
a clear. Okay, I'm like Googling this as you're talking. So does it come with that table or do you have to make that table?
No, so you set it up on any table platform that you have.
Okay.
It comes with a set of clear cups with color coded, so it's like red team versus the blue team.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is there's no liquid, so if you spill it, you can play it anywhere. And if you spill it, nothing's going to happen. But the ball sticks like liquid, so you still play the game the same way.
I see. It's like a gel that's in the cup. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. So it sticks in the gel. So what happens if you get so in beer pong, not that I would know from avid experience or anything, but when you get the ping pong in the cup, typically someone drinks the beer. What do you do in skill pong? If you get it in the cup?
People, to our audience, drinking is not that fun. Like if you think about it, when you make a cup, right, there's a consequence. You have to drink another beer or another sip of your beer. But is that really the fun part of the game? Or is the fun part really trying, and talking trash and connecting with your partner and playing the game?
Yeah.
So we still have the best elements of the game, but the drinking isn't part of it. And what I found even too, like when I was in school, I would go to drinking parties and I would just do it sober. And I would play beer pong with people and they could care less whether I drank after they made a cup or not.
Right.
That wasn't what it was about. It was about the game. So we just play it like that. And then the winner of the tournament might get, like a $50 gift card to a local business that we had sponsor us or something like that. And that's going to get people more excited than anything else.
Love it. All right, cool. So we've got skill pong, which I'm looking at it just to verbally describe it. You get this plastic cup that's got like a gel that's color based in the bottom. So when the ping pong goes in, it has that like weight to it and that stickiness, so it just doesn't bounce out. So it's actually brilliant, and there's no mess, which if you have liquid and the cup knocks it over, mess everywhere. So I love it. Okay, so we got skill pong. Yeah. What's another game that you find is a lot of fun for people to play?
Another game that's great it's not necessarily a competition, but catchphrase.
Okay, what is that?
Is another great one. It's basically, it's a game where you get in a circle, you can play with as many people as you want to, and it's a describing game. So you'll get a word on a buzzer and it's timed. So it's like beeping at you and urging you to go fast. And when it's done beeping and the beeping gets super fast, the timer, and if you haven't correctly described that word and your team has not guessed it yet, then you will not get the point. The other team will get the point. So you basically describe the word as fast as you can, your team answers it, and then you pass it to the next person. And they're on opposite team. So they're trying to describe it, get their team to answer it, and pass it back to your team. Because then if you get stuck, you end up losing that point.
Got it.
So it's a really fast-paced, loud, fun game. People get super hype about. And then any outdoor, like tailgating games, stuff like that, just as like casual to have going on outside so people know it's a party as soon as they get there. We always recommend those too.
And is there a just so I'm catching catchphrase perfect, because apparently I'm the only human who probably hasn't played this game. So like I'd give you a word like microphone and I have to describe microphone without saying the word microphone. Is that how it is?
Exactly. Yep.
Got it. Okay, cool. So now this is a weird question, but I think it's a very important question, Jake. So follow my train of logic here, okay? There's the moment that you transition into the games. And I found that from parties I've hosted, there's this socially like weird or awkward phase that's like, well, do we wait until there's more people who showed up before we start? Because it'd be in a perfect world, you'd start at 10, everybody would be there by 10:05, right? Like it's not a perfect world. Are there any tips for either A, getting people to show up on time better, or B, when do you jump into, because people walk in, I imagine they don't walk in and you go, here's a ping pong, or maybe you do. I don't know. I've never been to one of your sober parties. But how do you transition
Right.
people from the welcome into the party, grab some food, grab some non-alcoholic drinks, to we're going to play a game? How does that transition phase typically happen?
So right away, we have things available that students will gravitate towards. Whether it's outside, there are some games available that we're playing, and that's the first thing they see. So we will always get them involved in something right away. Hey, come play stump with us, or come play bag toss with us, until the party gets going a little bit and there's some people there. Then we literally have someone whose job it is to hype everyone up about the tournament or the game that's the feature of that night that gets people involved. And I think maybe the other scary thing that people think is that, like, it's going to be cheesy, it's going to feel forced. But the truth is that people want something to do. So if you act excited about it and you are so pumped up about this game, and you don't even ask them, you hand them the sign up sheet and say, hey, did you sign up for the tournament yet? And assume that there's no reason why they would not sign up for it. Like, again, for the salespeople who are listening, like, every single thing at this party is a sale. That tournament is a sale that's going to enhance the experience for every person who's at that party. So we get that sheet filled up, and then maybe we start another one. But basically, you just act excited about the event and have someone go around to fill that thing up, gets people about the event, and whatever tournament you're hosting. But it has to be on you. Like, that's your responsibility. Don't assume that people are going to just start playing, and playing a tournament and sharing and getting new people involved. People will stay in their comfort zone unless you bring them out of it. And that's going deeper, but I mean, that's what we teach.
I love it. So you're actually having someone whose main kind of role is to be like, yo, welcome, grab some food. We're going to do a fun game soon. It's going to be awesome. We're going to pick teams out. And they're like, oh man, I'm getting hype about it.
Right.
Is
I
that
have to
kind
be
of how it
part
looks?
of that. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
See, I love that, because that's a really like small step that I think could be overlooked. Like, you kind of walk people in and you go, all right, everyone, we're going to play a game now. Is not the same as, hey, welcome in.
Yeah.
We're going to be playing a game soon. The game's going to be this. It's going to be fun. We're going to have teams. I can't wait. But, make sure you got food and drinks first. It's going to be awesome. Start talking to those people over there. They might be on your team. It's going to be a lot of, like, I can imagine someone being like, okay, now I'm anticipating, and it makes it a little bit easier to do the transition versus like holding up a glass and dinging it with your spoon and being like, excuse me, can I get your attention, please? That kind of jazz. I think it's awesome. I love it.
Exactly.
And you know what? I'll share this with you because I recently got into it, and I think it would be a huge hit at your parties, man. Have you ever heard of the miracle fruit? You ever heard of this berry? The miracle berry, miracle fruit?
No, what is that?
I know it sounds absolutely like one of those weird things that, like, it's going to help you lose 25 pounds without working out, right? Like, it's not that at all. It's not that at all, right? This is a real thing. Like, I recently got into it, and they're so much fun. So basically, it's called a miracle berry, right? There's like groups that are called like fruity or M-berry, are different places that sell it. But basically, the way it works is it's like a lozenge kind of form. Like, they take the berry and they put it into like a kind of like lozenge, and you put it in your mouth and you let it dissolve in your mouth. And then literally for like 15 to 20 minutes after it dissolves, anything that's sour tastes sweet. So you literally, I've like done this with my friends and my wife, like we'll eat like a bag of lemons like right after it, and it tastes amazing. This is a real thing. I wish it sounded like I was like, but I'm telling you, it 100% works. Like, so you could take, so what I did is like I squeeze lemons in the water, and then you drink it. It tastes just like lemonade. If you take like a little sip of vinegar, it tastes like apple juice. If you take like Greek yogurt that's not flavored, it tastes like a vanilla smoothie. So it's a really cool thing. So if you've never checked it out, man, I think it would you'll be the star of your next event.
Dude, that's the thing that would create a fun new experience. Like, just having that at one party would make it memorable, and people would come back to the next party thinking, what's next? Like, I'm ready, I'm in. This is so unique and wild.
Yeah.
That's really cool. The miracle berry.
The
That's
miracle
awesome.
berry. Google it, man. So you just cut up some limes, cut
Yeah.
up some lemons, and be like, and you have people. What I like to do when I do it, right? I'll just give you a little tip for those of you I want to throw a little flavor tripping party here, right? You have them taste the lemon first, so they know it's like a legit lemon, like you're not making it up. Then you drink some water to clear
Yeah.
your palate. Throw the tablet on your tongue. Probably lasts probably takes like 5 minutes or so to dissolve. So there's a little bit of wait period. But then you eat the same lemon and you're like, this is amazing. It's so much fun. It's so cool. I think you'll love it, man.
Dude, and on their website, it's literally says host an M-berry party.
See? There it is. Perfect connection.
Awesome.
But like, to me, no one knows about this. So like, if you introduce it, you become cool, and it's not alcohol based, and it's totally safe, right? Like, well, look, I don't work for the FDA, but they sell it, so I assume it's safe. I've done it a bunch of times. I'm fine.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So now we're having fun. We're introducing people, and we're kind of having a great experience. Now, what I would love for you to hit upon and touch upon is this idea of standing out and fitting in. And I know that's a huge kind of core value system of why this is put together, what you stand for as an individual and as an organization. So tell me more about just the kind of contrarian views that might actually exist with standing out and fitting in, and how that plays into all this that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a great question, especially thinking about when I speak to different audiences, whether it's high school or college students, and even why people in corporate America say what you're doing is so unique and important is because everyone thinks, they have this notion that in order to be liked by people, you have to do what they do. You have to be like them. You have to imitate them. And that couldn't be the farthest from the truth, because here's why. If you think about it, if you look deeper into that logic, if you need to become like someone else for them to like you, think about what they're doing for you to like them. They don't have to do anything, right? You're doing all the lead work. You're becoming like them. You're fitting into them. You're doing what they do, and they're just being themselves. And if you look at human nature and what we're attracted to, the reason why we probably want to fit into someone and we want to be friends with them is because they display confidence. And that is a magnet to us. Like, we can't help it. When we see a confident person or a leader, like, we just want to be around them. And I think innately in our human nature, we think safety, like they know where they're going and they can take us there. They think success. So we want to be a part of that. So what I've found is that if you learn how to stand out instead of fit in, you'll actually have more friends. And this blows people's minds because, again, innately we think on the surface level, you have to be like someone else for them to like you. You have to find a common bond, a common interest. But as important as those things are, we all have differences. We all are unique. We're made differently. So we're going to have disagreements. We have different values, but that's not really going to stop us from becoming friends and finding a common bond. So what I've found, like, especially when I started this company, is at the first 2 years when I hid my decision, I was doing it because I wanted to fit in. I was going to these house parties and these bars and pretending to be someone that I wasn't. And if you think about the example of going to the grocery store and looking for your favorite, like, let's go back to the berries, your favorite fruit. Let's say, what's your favorite fruit?
Red or green grape.
A red or green grape. Okay, so now imagine if the red or green grapes hidden underneath all of the bananas. Would you ever find it going to the grocery store?
Not at all.
No. And that's exactly what I think we do. When we fit into people that we don't actually resonate with, or we become someone we're not, which is exactly what I did my first 2 years of college, going to these parties, even though I didn't want to drink, I was hiding myself from all the people that really needed me to stand out and become a leader. all the people that really needed me to start a movement on my campus and show them a better way to party. And especially the 30% who had no interest in drinking. And, they went home every weekend to, take a job, or, they didn't know what to do. I feel like I was letting them down because I was hiding in this place that allowed me to fit in. But once I stood out, once I took the grapes and I put them on a stand that said, grapes, $2.99, all those people who wanted grapes and they wanted someone like me, they could find me. And it was so funny because to do that, I had to stop caring about what people thought about me. They could say, oh, he's the weird sober guy, or he's uncool, or he's boring or arrogant. But as soon as I did that, I had hundreds of friends every single weekend come over to my house for parties. I had tons of people come up to me thanking me for hosting these kind of events. And I never had to look for another friend who was like me. See, they all started to fit in to me because I displayed leadership. So I think that is the biggest stereotype that we can debunk, or the biggest myth that we can bust. Not ourselves, but you don't have to fit in to be popular or to be well-liked. In fact, if you stand out, you're going to be more popular and more well-liked because you're going to attract the right kind of people.
Yeah, it's always interesting. Whenever someone is, they think they're into something that's like weird, or they think they're into something like, oh, I don't like talking about this thing that I'm into because people make fun of me. Like, it's guaranteed there are a ton of other people that are like, I am looking for other people to chat about this with. And I would love, like, if someone stood up and did it. And I remember when I was in college, there was a, you ever heard of LARPing, live action role playing? You ever heard of that, Jake?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's basically where people like, kind of dress up in like night outfits and get styrofoam swords and they, fight. I'm sure there's more to it. I've never done it. I've just observed it from the outside.
Right.
But, they kind of fight. And I remember in college, and I tell this story sometimes when I do my college presentations. It was interesting. I remember I was in college and I was walking down my quad and I saw these, it was about 8 of them. And they were, in the middle of the quad, just going at it with their styrofoam swords. And this is way, way before Game of Thrones probably made it cool to do something like this, right? And I remember thinking to myself, my very first thought was a judgment thought. My first thought was like, wow, look at those losers over there, right? This is teenage Rel.
Right.
But then my second thought was, but they have friends, right? Like, what else matters besides that? Like, they have friends and they're not hurting anyone. They're not beating anyone up. They're not robbing anyone. They're not hurting themselves. They're generally having a good time. So I just love that idea of if you like something and you're passionate about something, like, put it out there, start talking about it. The good thing is I feel like what's happened in a very subtle way today, like in our society today, is almost a democratization. I'm not saying that word right. Democratizing of coolness, where because of the internet, because of so many things, like, we can find so many people who are interested in the stuff we're interested in, where maybe 20 years ago, there was like one definitive way to be cool. I think there's so many different ways to be cool now. And unless we buy into, I have to look like every Instagram model, or I have to look like that, you'll find pockets of people who dig what you dig. And you may think someone's got to be that first person to be like, hey, sober party, but you're doing it in a cool way. We got the fun, the games, the friends, the food. So I encourage all of you to listen to what Jake's saying, regardless if you're an adult, maybe. And what would be cool is maybe even as an adult, if some of you are listening, be like, Arel, but I'm not in college anymore. How do I partake in all of this awesomeness? I think it would be amazing to maybe do a staff party or a holiday party or a get together that you instill and infuse what Jake's been sharing with us and see how it goes. It's actually interesting, Jake. I think you get a kick out of this. What I used to do, I actually still do this. I used to do it. I still do it now. When I go to parties, I drink alcohol, but I don't like alcohol to be the lead or the, I don't get drunk. I can't remember the last time I've actually been drunk. But what I do is I get club soda and I put a lime in it, right? and I walk around parties and I drink that, because when people see that, it looks like it's a drink, but it's actually not. So it's
Yeah.
a way for me to still navigate in a party, still have all my bearings about me, but still fit in. So, having that moment where I was like, hey, I'm doing this just to like, it's easier to do. It hit me. I'm not sure what to do with that feeling, but I know it stood out to me. But I love the idea of you saying standing out is a way of truly attracting the right people to come to connect with you.
Yeah. And I was always careful too. Like you said, you're at a party, and I would learn different things like that to realize that maybe that wasn't my audience. If I put myself in a bar, that's not my audience really. They all came there to drink. They don't want to be, they don't want to be scolded for their life choices or anything. And anything you say probably after 1 a.m., they're not going to remember it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So when I would go to bars, like I would just go to the dance floor right away. And I do the same thing. I'd ask my friend Steve, who I always, partied with, can you just get me a water when you go to the bar so that I have something to hold? Otherwise, people will be trying to buy drinks and shots, and I'll have to go justify my decision to be sober all night, and I won't have any fun. So I think there's realizing who your audience is and where you are. If it is a good place where you can have discussions with people, I think it's super awesome to stand out and, try not holding that, or try holding a can of Coke and just use it as an experiment. Yeah, see what people say, because it will bring up some conversations. But if it is a place where people are out of their minds and they're clearly just there to, do something else, then you might think, all right, for my sanity as well, I'm not going to open up this can of worms here.
Yep. So now, when someone decides to focus on not playing playing that game and being more focused on themselves and attracting like knowing themselves so that they can like themselves, so they can attract like-minded people, so they can have a experience in a life that they like. When they do that, what kind of things do you hear from the students and from the colleges that you plan these events? Like, what are the most common responses you get after someone hosts a sober party?
The most common one is like, thank you for showing me that it's possible to have fun with and fit in and make friends without drinking, and that there are actually people in this room who are just like me, but I'm giving platform to see on their instead of just motivating them and following up and seeing how their life goes, which is very important. But instead, they can actually see a tangible result of me coming there. And these students get fired up, and now they're throwing sober parties for their school. So the combination between that, students doing that and feeling that way and noticing that they can make a difference and feeling empowered to actually go ahead and do something and get out of their comfort zone and create something. And the faculty and staff knowing that, wow, we actually, it's a month later, but the party's tonight. So now I remember that Jake White guy when he came to campus, because he's basically still working for us, even though he left 29 days ago.
Love it, man. And as we're coming to the end, and we got some really great strategies here today. We talked about things that touched upon, one, how to actually get people to come to your events, the personal invite, the personal touch, how to structure your 25-second opening, how to put yourself into the right mindset of how to make the ask, how to structure the actual event through, the food, the friends, the fun, and how to actually have someone who introduces people and hypes them up about what's going to happen, reaching out to sponsors that may connect with your brand, this messaging, whether it's, in your case, you've used Red Bull and Papa John's, Insomnia Cookie, Subway, groups like that who are like, hey, we can get behind it. And again, if you're an adult, just buy it because you've made a living for yourself, right? But, and you're putting together competitive parties doing games like skill pong or catchphrase, or having a flavor stripping party with the Miracle Berry that I threw out
Yeah.
there, which could be a new one,
Yeah.
right? Like, so you're going through that. You're not just focused on fitting in. You're standing out, and you're putting your foot forward to attract like-minded people, so that you do have that network, so you don't have to be alone. And realizing having something you care about insanely and deeply is important in anything that you do, whether it's throwing a party or choosing a career, because you'll become more successful at it. You've just given us incredible strategies here. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, or anything that maybe we didn't cover that you'd like to leave us with?
Just a little encouragement to take a look at what makes you different. And this is for any ages. This isn't a motivational speech for you. It's to look at what does make you different, and how can you display that to others, so it encourages them to be okay with their own differences, because you have so much impact on the world that you probably don't even realize. But we touch so many people during our lives, and you are leaving a legacy every single day. So just, love your differences, own them, and then you're going to invite other people to do the exact same thing.
Absolutely. And, Jake, I know you have your website, partyzero.org. So not the letter O, the letter zero, correct?
Yep. The number zero key. Yep.
So partyzero.org or party.0.org. So obviously people can go there to find out more about the resources you have available. If there's anyone listening who is like, yo, we'd love to get our students excited about sober parties and they'd love to bring you to their campus, obviously I would encourage you to go to partyzero.org to find out more about his programming. If people want to just stay connected with you and find out what's going on in the world of Jake White, what's the best way for people to be in your universe?
My Facebook page is Jake White Speaks. Otherwise you can find, I pretty much only use social media for my branding. So if you type in Party.0 and Instagram or Facebook, we're going to pop up right away. So get connected with us on social media, or just hit up my Facebook page, Jake White Speaks, if you're interested in that.
Love it. Love it. Jake, thank you for instilling in us an incredible angle of how to create a more likable and more enjoyable life by connecting and meeting the right people, by learning how to be a little bit more fun, a little bit more sober in our partying, and that we don't have to lean on something, that we can actually create a great experience. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. And like I say on every single podcast, whether you've heard this podcast 50 times or this is your first time hearing it, the information that you heard today, the information that Jake shared with us, will not impact or help your life in any way. It's completely useless on its own. The implementation of this information, the saying to yourself, you know what, I'm going to throw a sober party, or you know what, I'm going to reach out and find a way to connect more deeply with people, or I'm going to find out how to implement the strategies he talked about in other areas of my life, whether it's sales, whether it's dating. Honestly, I think those three strategies, by the way, really work, whether, food, friend, fun, just those F's are just useful in all areas. But you got to choose something and you got to do it. So I encourage all of you to take action, to not just sit on the sidelines. Let us know what you think. If you like this episode, please go to iTunes or Stitcher and leave a review. We love seeing it. I know my guests love seeing the reviews. I love seeing them as well. Leave 5 stars if you're digging what we're doing, because it really helps us get this message in front of more people, which I'm truly, truly passionate about. Please go to artoflikability.com. artoflikability.com. Sign up for our email newsletter there. We're going to be sending out great emails every week. So if you haven't been getting the emails, you're missing out on some fun content. We've got cool promos and specials just for the listeners. We got some great courses on how to ace your interview, how to start a conversation with anyone that you can access. You're going to love that content because it's effective and it works. Okay. So thank you so much, Jake, for being here. Sending you and everyone listening a big old high five. You are awesome.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast, The Art of Likeability, and reach out with any questions you have. Until next time, remember, my friend, you are awesome.